Hello, world. This audio you're about to hear is from a man called Simon, so I'm going to call this podcast Simon Says. Now, I think Simon needs an outlet and an avenue to share his thoughts with the world because Simon knows a lot of information, and I've told him I'm going to put you on my platform, and this is it. So sit back and enjoy Simon's conversation. It starts off halfway through a conversation, but you'll pick up some of it, and for anyone interested, please let us know, and we'll record more of Simon because I've told him there will be people out there in the world that will be interested in what Simon has to say. This is audio only. I will put a screenshot up of some of the videos that Simon recommends as part of his life journey. Simon's background is engineering, so Simon's mind is already wired with lots of information. So please enjoy. We hope you like the show. Thank you. Simon Says.
He said, it took me 3 or 4 months to do the winding. And he showed me the winding. I felt the energy from the winding, and I now know what the energy was. I said, crikeys, mate, that's the most unique bit of art I've ever seen. And he said, yeah. He said, I've tried to find an electrical winder, but there's no machine on the planet that can wind that. I said, have a look at it, mate. Of course not. It's just too friggin' intricate. And I said, it looks like it's wound in gold. He didn't comment. So he said, okay, I've shown you. And I was hoping that he was going to give me the armature and the windings, which was separate from the motor, but he put them back in his cupboard. He said, come with me out to the front counter. And he places it on the counter. And he said, okay, you know it's got to be kick-started. How many volts to start it, to make it run? And I'm picking my nose, and he goes, we're going to start it with 1 AAA battery, 1.5 volts. And I would have, if I hadn't procrastinated so much, I would have thought about 20, 30 volts. So he said, 1 AAA battery, 1.5 volts, will start and run that. As soon as it starts, we'll take the power off and it'll keep going. So I said, okay. So he said, here's the AAA battery. The leads are connected. There's the connection point. Just put the wires on there. And I said, okay. So I put the wires on, and he said, now take the wires off. The motor's running. He says, it's still running. But he said, now watch this. Here's another one. Now we're going to run this with nothing on it. I went, oh yeah. He said, now the one I've just given you that's not attached to anything, it's only in your hand. Before I did that, he says to me, grab the output shaft of the one that's spinning and see if you can stop it. And I've grabbed it, no chance. He says, okay, now grab the other electric motor and cross over the 2 output shafts so they're like that. They're not touching, but they're overlapped. And he said, the other one will start instantly. And it did. Nothing on it, except that it's overlapped the output shaft of the one that's already running. And he said, you can do that infinitely. I could get another one, and another one, and another one, and they'll all transfer the energy. He said, grab the output shaft. I couldn't stop it. There's nothing attached to it. And he said, if I had another one, I know I could do it. Then he used the term, I call it a term, there's a panacea that causes the energy to be infinite no matter what. Then he said, let me show you something else. And he went out and he got this motor, size of a pool pump motor, which is about, say, 1.5 kilowatts. Same thing happens. And I went, shit. He goes, yeah, shit. And I said, you know, I know what the panacea is. And I tell him, and he goes, on the nose, mate. And I said, you know what one of my favourite movies is, which shows exactly what you're doing here, but very few people would understand it. It's in the last scene of The Fifth Element. And he said, ironically, he said, that's my favourite movie too, because you're exactly right. The last scene in The Fifth Element explains exactly what's happening here. And so he said, I've been trying to get the government to embrace it. I said, mate, you better watch your ass. You'll get bumped off. He said, I've already been warned. I'm aware. I've already been warned. So I said, what are you going to do? He said, they could threaten me with my life. They can do whatever they like, but they'll never get it. And I said, you and I both know the reason why. And he said, yeah, they'll never get it. He said, it's all in here. It's all in here. So the Australian government told him to go and get lost, because that'd be the end of petroleum companies, gas companies. Kiss them goodbye. They're finished. They're all in each other's beds. So what follows after that I can't divulge. I'm with this guy for about, oh, goodness knows. Now, somehow or other, he knew about my bicycle accident. And when I walked in, because he'd been told I was dead, and when I walked in, he said, "G'day, Simon, how you going?" And I said, "Well, I'll be buggered." And he said, "I knew you weren't dead. And you and I both know why." And I said, "Yeah, but how do you explain it?" He says, "You don't." So he said, "Come on in, let me tell you my advancements from when I showed you 5 years ago." And for the next 3 hours, he takes me through all this stuff, and he's been back to the government again. Well, I'll be buggered. What he showed me, the first words were, "Do you trust me?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "Because you're going to need it. What I'm about to ask you to do." And crikeys, mate, what I witnessed and experienced. And I said, "I'll be buggered. That is phenomenal." He said, "Yeah." But we both agreed, as miraculous as it is, it's not the answer to the issues of the world. He said, "You're right, but it's a stepping stone to get people to finally realise there is only one way to go." And this will just, they'll go, "Holy mackerel, have a look at that." And the simplest way I can explain it is this. It's all to do with Christ Jesus, okay? And how they've deliberately manipulated Christmas to become this, okay?
Business.
And you have to symbolise Christmas to get the true meaning. Instead of Christmas, it's meant to say Christ Mass. Symbolise it, split the 2 words. The whole reason for it is to remind you at Christ Mass time,
Christmas,
which the 25th of December isn't the birthday. That's just all bull dust. Business, okay? So the Christ Mass represents a consciousness. A consciousness is this, the Christ of the consciousness that was in the human body, mind, soul, spirit called Jesus, was from a higher spiritual order called the Melchizedek. Okay? Melchizedek is a Sanskrit word for king of. Melchi. Zedek. Zedek means right use of consciousness, of which the Christ was a master at. And all this and more that you've seen me do, ye can all do, because and the Melchizedek is written about in the bullshit Bibles, okay? They've deliberately misinterpreted it so that nobody sees through it. All the higher truths are buried in the dungeons, or at all things leave to roam, never to be revealed.
That's unreal.
It's too late for that. It's coming another way. It's coming in a way I know is coming, inevitably, but it cannot be explained in words. But when it comes, but you have to make yourself ready, which is the reason why the Christ came. Because it alludes to frequency, which I have so referred to tonight. What's going on?
Keep going. So I'm just shouting a message that maybe like
if you want to be a part of what's coming, it all depends on your frequency. Okay? It all depends on your frequency. If you don't raise your frequency to meet with what's coming, ta-da. Not
die of COVID. No, sorry.
No.
I just had to put that in.
Now, what I'm alluding to was written by a scientist called Professor Jose Aguilez in 1996, and he reported it in the New York Scientific Reviews. And when he reported it, the scientists said, keep your mouth shut, you're not to speak about this again. Okay? Now, I'm going to jump around a bit. Here's a biggie. Okay? Science has known for decades and decades that the Earth core is hollow. It's not molten. Okay? It's full of helium gas and quartz crystal. And Professor Jose Aguilez reported this, and that there was a particular energy emanating from the core of Earth going light years into the universe. And not only was it sending this energy, but more energy was coming back. And this energy coming back was so intense, had been being measured for years, but never to the extreme extent that was coming back this time. And they said the energy was even far greater than if a supernova had gone kabooming. The energy was 300 times more than whatever had been recorded before in comparison to the last supernova that the astrologers had recorded. And Aguilez was endeavouring to explain. And he wrote this book called, which is no longer available, isn't that a bit of wonder why? He wrote this book called The Mayan Factor. okay? And I bought a copy, but it was taken off the market because the book was all about what Jose Aguilez, the scientist, after 33 years of investigation, it was basically an autobiography of his scientific life and the truth about the Mayans. They were, I'll put it in our language, they were the most superior scientists, just to use a word, that
True science.
they were of a science beyond the books.
Sure.
Beyond books. Everything they got came to them consciously. Here's something people don't know. It's only been in the last 100 years, science has been trying to work out the orbit of Venus through the universe. And the Mayan scientists had worked it out over 3,000 years ago, and it was recorded. And now with all their fancy computers and that, they came up with the orbit of Venus, and the Mayan time for the orbit of Venus was correct down to the last 3 decimal points. When you're talking, it was da-da-da-da, blah, 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 and only the last 3 altered just very slightly. And they did that consciously. Yeah. And in the book, he showed diagrams drawn by the Mayan scientists. And you would have seen these diagrams. And as I'm looking at them, I'm getting all this energy from them because they're all about sacred geometry, mandalas and things like that. It's a bit like I was alluding to when I went to grab that thing on the easel. He says, okay, Christine said you can come on down. And I walked into her studio and she says, "G'day, Simon." She goes, "We've been expecting you." I thought, "We've?" And she said, "Sit down. I've been asked to show you something. Do you want to see it?" I said, "Well, I'm here." So she said, "Well, before I show you, let me take you for a walk around my latest project." I said, "Okay." So what she was in the process of was doing the mandalas for the energy of all the planets in the solar system. Not only had she done the mandalas, but she'd given an explanation what was happening to each planet, reverse polarities and this, that and the other. And she said, "The one I've been asked to give you to have a look at is this one." It was still covered, "But you're going to need to sit down." I said, "Okay." So sit down, make yourself comfy, and I'll place it on your knees, hang on to it tight, and I'll take the cover off. And take your time and have a look at it. Well, mate, I'll leave it there. The energy that came, I was going, crikey, within. And I stayed like that for about a half an hour. And then she said, let me show you the mandala you wanted. And she explained it. Now, I'll leave it there because so much happened. These mandalas are all done in sacred geometry. Okay. Now, she said, you're only looking at the first layer of geometrics, and no compasses are used, nothing. It's all freehand. And you're talking to take a mathematical geometry genius, weeks and weeks with all the latest compasses and stuff to work it out to fit precisely. And she just freehands it. You're talking the most instrument. And she said, there's 80 layers of geometrics to that, and all in different colours, because colour is a vibrational frequency. Each layer adds more and more energy. That's why you felt the energy. The intensity, not only that, there's 80.
You see the colors?
Every colour has a frequency.
Yes.
And I could explain to you more about that. And she said, each planet has its own colour frequency and colour. Mother Earth, as you know, is sapphire blue. And there's a reason for that. I won't go into it now. Notice on the mandala, there's 80 Sikorsky quartz crystals. And note where they're positioned. And note the ones in the middle. The middle quartz crystals are all placed on the mandala geometrics of the Star of David. The Star of David is one of the most powerful mandalas that there are. Each point of the Star of David, the 6 points, has a particular energy, but it's only activated with the very top energy. If you I'll call it blasphemize the other points, the top energy, which sustains it all, cannot enter because you've told it to piss off. But if you decline it, blasphemize it, it's at your own peril. Okay, so now you know why Israel has used it as its emblem on its national flag.
Even the road. Oh, even there.
Yeah. So the Star of David is a very, very powerful energy mandala if it's used for the reason that it was given to David. But it hasn't been. That's why you're seeing the mess in Palestine, Israel, Gaza, Ukraine, Lebanon. Because Israel invaded Lebanon in the mid-40s and they caused much grief. They raped, pilfered, murdered, blew things to bits. And this is all written by a woman who lived through it. Her name is Noah Liebes. Her book is a fantastic book. You know, she was 14 years old when the soldiers came in and started their rampages. She lived through it. Many didn't. Israel. How many people know that? Okay. Ironically, at one point she moved to Australia and she moved to Doubleview And I read that and I went, oh, I'll be buggered. She was head of the Baptist church in Doubleville. She's totally non-religious, but it was a way for her to get in.
Don't give up.
But the book's called The Shadow of the Cross, which is quite iconic when you understand, because she knew what the shadow of the cross meant. And it's in another series of books that I won't allude to. So anyway, I carry with me I carry a list of suggestions, because often I'll end up in a debate like this and I say, look, I'm not here to teach or preach or convince. All I can do is say, here, have a look at this list of things. If anything jumps out at you and you feel you'd like to have a look at it, everything I'm putting before you are all the things that I've read, looked at, that have helped me, supposedly, where I am now. If it helps you like it's helped me, I'll feel great. If it doesn't, just chuck it in the bin. And I handed it out. I hand them out. I go to the office work and I'll print off copy after copy and just give them out like licorices. Here you go, here you go. And the amount of times kids have come up to me, and in particular women, and they've started asking me questions. I go, look, I'm not here to teach or preach. Here, take this. And about a month ago, this young woman approached me who's spoken to me before, and she said, shit, I was just thinking about you and I need to talk to you. And here you are. I said, oh, well, serendipity. And I said, what's up, duck? What's up? She says, well, I'm in this dilemma. And she explains the dilemma. And she says to me, what do you reckon I ought to do? I said, I can't tell you what to do. You have to feel and make that decision for yourself. But I have something in my bag that I'm being guided to say to you will help you with strengthening yourself to make your own decision to get through the dilemma you're in. Oh, but no, there are no buts. I'm not here to preach or teach or convince. Only you can save yourself from what you've just alluded to. So I said, here it is. She said, I'll take a picture. I said, just take it. I got heaps of copies. Just take it. She said, oh, okay. Thanks very much. 2 days later, she's back at the beach. And she was like mud when I saw her, because she was that. And she was aglow. And she said, oh, shit. Thanks very much for what you gave me. I'm through it. I'm fine. I've made the bloody decision and it feels so great. I said, there you go. Don't thank me. Thank yourself. You had the courage and the strength to absorb what you offered, and it felt right for you and you followed, and look at you. Don't thank me. Thank whatever gave it to me to write and give to you. Because I didn't write it. It came to me to write. I'm only the instrument used to write it, to hand it on to you. And we're all instruments. We can go our own way, dickhead way with our free will way, or we can feel the guidance. It says not like that, like this, and follow it and scribe it as best you can and offer it. Give it out. And that's all I've done. So don't thank me. I've done fuck all except hand out what came to me. Thank what gave it to me. Of myself, I know fuck all. All I'm doing is following what comes to me consciously that feels right. I'm not here to preach, convince, decipher, translate, or interpret. Only you can do that for yourself. What I've got might come completely different for you. And that's the way it is.
And that's right, folks. That was special guest Simon. We hope you got some good information.
Oh, you
out of that.
filming that, you prick.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
The boys.
There'll be part 2 coming later. Thank you.
Yes, boys.
Yes, that's right. That was the voice of Simon Says. So if you'd like to hear more of Simon, please let us know so we can inspire Simon to share more of his thoughts and knowledge. This has been another Hang Loose Recluse production. Thank you.